Hey, what is up, guys? Blunt Cuts here. This is a Watch Our Realms video. Thank you for tuning into my channel. I appreciate it. Please do like and subscribe if you do enjoy my content. And I will say I am getting damn close to 1,000 subscribers. I would really appreciate anybody who has enjoyed my content in the past, but you haven't hit that subscribe button for whatever reason. I would appreciate a sub. Get me to 1K. Get me monetized. I would really appreciate it. That would really make my day, make my month, make my year potentially. I would really appreciate it. Anyway, enough self-promotion. I'm here because I was able to beat Stage 6 of the Void Rift Epilogue with a comp that nobody has done it before, at least to my knowledge anyway. I haven't seen it anywhere on the recommended comp list in the boss, so I'm excited to share it with you. This was a labor of love / frustration. It was something that I banged my head against the wall for the past 3 weeks or so on. It was very frustrating, but I was able to persevere at the end. No Elowyn, no Valderon, no arrogance. We only use Constance as a healer. Volca, I guess, helped out as well. If you want to count Volca as a healer, then you certainly could. But without further ado, let's take a look at the comp. I'll take a look at the boss as well and talk through his skills. And then I'm going to show you the fight, and we can talk about gear and maybe some potential substitutions that you might be able to make and still pull this off at the end of the fight. All right, so before we go any further, I feel like it makes sense to really just kind of go through the boss's skills here. As you can see, high HP, high attack, high defense, high everything, basically. This is one tough son of a bitch, honestly. And the recommended BP kind of represents that. I've never seen BP recommendations this high in the game. 1.26 million is the recommended team battle power, and that is just nutty when you think about it. That's basically double what the Nightmare Void Rift end stages are. It's crazy. So really ramping up the difficulty here, which is why so few comps have been able to beat this. But I'm happy to add another potential comp that might fit some more rosters to the group. So in any case, let's go through the skills real quick. Deals damage to all enemies within 1 tile ahead. So basically the 3 tiles, and if you can see where my mouse pointer is, in a horizontal line in front of the boss are going to be basically a no deployment zone. Boss does massive damage to them. I don't think there's a healer that can really keep up with that. Maybe I'm wrong. I didn't really try, in fairness. I just know that whenever I tried to deploy anybody there, it was not working. Tempest Gaze deals high damage to all targets in range. This is an AoE damage. It only hits ground units, so that is something. There's only 1 platform tile on the map. You can see it right where my mouse is circling right now. That is the only place that you can place a platform unit on this map, meaning that if you want to place a platform healer there, then you can't bring any ranged DPS in. Now, beyond that, the boss does sit 4 tiles away from that platform, meaning that if you want to reach the boss, you are going to need to bring a Piercer with a Piercer Lord, so they have the extended range, or you're going to need to find another unit that fits the bill and can deal high single target damage from that range. I know many of you may be thinking, well, Ingrid can do that, right? Because she has a 5-tile range directly in front of her. However, that is only in Ingrid's AoE mode, in her solar mode. In her stellar mode, which is the single target mode, she has a standard mage range, meaning that she tops out at a 3-tile range, and that is not going to cut it in this case. I thought the same thing when I got her. I thought it was going to solve this problem for me. It did not, so I had to go back to Hex. In any case, Tempest Portal summons Tempest Portal on the field that spawns Stormwalkers. Stormwalkers are enemies that you face in Stage 5. So if you're on this stage, you beat Stage 5. These are the air elementals that throw very high damage cyclones from range at placed enemy units. So our heroes, their enemies. And they do a ton of damage. You kind of have to work around them with either a long-range ground-based unit. They're going to be coming down the 4 lanes that are on either side of the kind of center area where the boss sits on this map right here. I can move myself to the side so you can see there are 4 lanes here. Yeah, I used Valeria and Ardea to take these out, kind of rotated them in and out. Volca was essential here because you do need to bring them in and out over and over again in order to deal with these side spawns. That is important to note. Tempest Cataclysm removes a random enemy from the battlefield. Now, it doesn't say that here, but this is only in phase 2 of the fight. And I guess I should also say, since the description does not provide this, there are 3 phases of the fight. In phase 1, the boss does large AoE damage to all the ground-based units. There are also spawns coming down the lanes that I was just talking about. When the boss reaches 76% health, it goes into phase 2, at which point the side spawns will stop during phase 2. But instead, basically every 20 seconds or so, actually I think it's every 15 seconds, the boss casts a skill that randomly removes one ground unit from the battlefield. Now what I found, and you'll see this in the video, is that the boss will prioritize units that are within one tile of him. So if you can place down Decimus, as I do in this, and time it right, you can place Decimus and remove him before it gets removed and you don't get the cost back. On top of that, if you don't remove the hero before the boss removes him, then you end up having a little tornado sitting on that tile, meaning you can't actually place anybody until the phase is over on that specific tile, and that kind of screws you at the end of the day. That makes it much, much harder to progress in this. So you're going to want to pay a close attention to the way that I deploy and recall Decimus over and over again in phase 2. What I'm looking for, and you'll see me slowing things down in there, is I'm looking for the little swirl to appear underneath Decimus's feet. That's how I know that it's safe for me to recall him at that point. Timing is just incredibly tight in this. It's very tough. I was going to try to explain this comp, and I may come back and do a guide on this later on, but this is mainly going to be a showcase. Although, of course, if you are trying to duplicate this and you do have questions, then please do ask them in the comments, and I will be more than happy to answer them. Anyway, moving on. Lightning Cascade deals high damage multiple times to all targets in range. This is in phase 3, which the boss enters when he gets to 31% health. And at that point, Lightning Cascade basically nearly one-shots everybody. I know that I have seen videos where people have been able to use Elowyn in conjunction with a wood elf in order to keep everybody up. I was not having a lot of success doing that, and so I had to default to this strategy instead. On top of that, I just wasn't doing enough damage, and when my entire team got wiped, I was just getting overwhelmed. So that's why I had to resort to the strat that I'm going to show you here. Next, Tempest Verdict. Tempest Tyrant will cast Tempest Verdict to end battle if not defeated within the given time. Now, this is cast if you don't beat the stage within the given time. I think it's 1 minute and 20 seconds for each stage. I'm not sure. You can check in the video when I get in there. I wasn't really paying attention to how much total time I was given. I was mainly paying attention to how much time I had left. So and it was tight at certain times. And then Tempest Descent. The Tyrant absorbs the cyclones on the field, entering the next phase. So those cyclones that I was talking about, blocking placement tiles, if you do end up getting any of them, they will be kind of absorbed by the boss when he does phase into the next phase. And then Control Immunity, standard here, immune to all CC effects except slow. Slow is important here. I am using Hex. Hex does increase damage to controlled enemies, so that does help out. We don't need to read his lore. I don't care about that, but you know, you're welcome to go at it if you like. Let's go to the recommended lineups here, and we're gonna look at the way that people have beaten it before, and then my comp is at the bottom here, so we'll get to that eventually, but all these look very similar at the end of the day. This one actually, at the first, I'm kind of impressed with this one. This guy did it without using a Chaos Nightmare comp. Instead, he used a Northerner Nightmare comp, which is definitely unique. Obviously, Ardea is getting boosted by that, and the shields probably helped out in keeping some of these units alive. Although really just Bro, Kier, and Elder, I guess, right? Because nobody else is going to be getting those shields. But in any case, I guess he needed to buff Ardea was his issue, and so he was able to do it that way. I did not do that. I had a devil of a time getting enough gear on Ardea to actually be able to function on the side lanes without a Lord, but I was finally able to get it done. But the other thing you're going to notice here is a lot of Nightmare comps, and I did use a Nightmare comp. I do not have Arrogance on my account, though. As many of you who have watched my summoning videos know, Arrogance is my most wanted non-Lord, non-Ancient hero, and I just can't seem to pull him. Can't wait for that Lust Arrogance banner to come back. I'm going to be pulling like a madman on it. Cannot wait for that. But beyond that, the other thing that you're going to see in here, a lot of Valderon, a lot of Elowyn. In fact, I think my comp is the only one without Elowyn that was able to get this down. So, you know, I do feel a little proud of that. Not gonna lie. But a lot of similarities here. You can see this guy's using Constance, but he's still got Elowyn in there as the main healer. You're gonna see some Cerberus in place of Ardea. But a lot of these comps are very, very, very similar. Not a lot of variation on here. Ooh, this guy managed to do it with 850k battle power, which is kind of impressive. But we go all the way to the bottom. This is the comp that I used. You can see my name. There it is, Blunt Guts. So what I did here is I had a Nightmare team. Torador is deployed eventually, very briefly, just to add some extra hits in. Really, I think he hits the boss twice. I think in the video that you're going to see, but he's not really doing much except for providing the Lord bonus. However, Volca, Ymir, and Ares all have high-level Wailing Skulls on, and that is a huge part of how I was able to get this done. I was able to leverage the Wailing Skull damage into this fight, and that really made the difference at the end of the day. Volca and Ares were in level 25 Wailing Skulls. Ymir had a level 22 Wailing Skull on. So obviously very high kind of artifact requirements here. As far as Valeria and Ardea, they were taking care of the side lanes that I referenced before. Hex is the main damage dealer. We can look at the damage of the comp. We scroll to the top here. Hex did twice as much damage as the next highest damage dealer. In fact, aside from Volca, who for some reason, which I still can't figure out, was doing significantly more damage than anybody else, aside from Hex. Hex was basically doing 3 to 4 times as much damage as all the ground units, and that is how I got this done. At the end of the day, you're gonna see in the video. But Constance is the only healer. There's no Elowyn, so no rage regen. I don't even have Lust in there for rage regen, so I'm not doing that. Really what I did was I stacked Wailing Skulls, and I leaned real hard on my A5 Hex and the exclusive artifact, and then I found a way to make it work with Constance as far as heals are concerned. I didn't use her ultimate all that much. I picked my spots as far as that, so I would pay attention to that. Decimus is in there, naked as the day he was born, with really just doing what he does. That unkillable is a game changer in a lot of content. So best rare in the game by far, in my opinion. He's a badass. He enabled this. So without further ado, let's get to the fight. I'm going to show you what I did. I'll come back afterwards. I will go through the gear. Let's take a look. right, guys, let's go through this gear real quick here. So we've got Toreador, who, like I said, was not really deployed at the end of the day. I don't know why. I guess he's 101, 838. I guess that's including the Lord bonus, because he definitely only has about 85k battle power on my screen. So that is weird. But in any case, the gear that Toreador had on was Infernal Roar. He's got solid stats, nothing crazy. High attack speed, 17,386 attack. He does have, as far as his artifact, a tuning crystal. Again, really was just the idea was to give him some longevity, but he's not really deployed here, so I don't really care all that much about him. But I did want him to be functional for those 2 hits, so he's got some very good gear on. Otherwise, obviously, he is crit capped. Does that not show here? I guess it doesn't show because he is a tank, but you'll have to trust me on that. He is crit capped. He does have, I think, about 275% crit damage. Let's take a look at our Volca here. So Volca was in Soulbound Arcana, Warlord on the left-hand side. Like I said, she is in a Wailing Skull, 20,440 attack. You can see stacking gear pieces that do have very high attack bonus on them. Obviously, she's in all attack bonus on the left-hand side. And mainly this was done with an eye towards maximizing Wailing Skull damage. So that is why she's geared the way she is. Crit damage is at 297%, 21.5% rage regen, although the rage regen, not really all that important in this comp because I'm using the ultimates very, very sparingly. And you're going to see I try to group damage together at a certain time and maximize Constance inspiration buff uptime. So that is that is the strategy that I went with. She is not fully skilled. My Volca is not fully skilled. I guess over dust skilled. I got her the damage reduction maxed out on this Midnight Requiem auto, so that I could use her in my Guild Boss 2 run. But other than that, you know, nothing crazy. She is a 5. I have completed Tides, so I think that certainly did help out here. The damage that... Actually, you know what? This is why. She does an extra 45% damage to targets that have debuffs on them. And I'm guessing that carries over to the Wailing Skull summons. And that is probably why she ended up doing significantly more damage than the others. So I think that falls more or less in line. Yeah, I think that's probably it. That's my theory anyway. But, you know, I just came up with it off the cuff, so maybe I'm wrong about that. I'm sure some of you, if I am wrong, you'll let me know in the comments. Valeria is in Infernal Roar. She is going to be deployed and then redeployed over and over again, so you can't count on having the stacks from Soulbound Arcana up. So that's why Infernal Roar is going to be better for her in this case. If I had another Wailing Skull, it would be on Valeria, but I don't. And so I put her exclusive because I really don't have very many other good fighter artifacts. I've got a couple of Realm Tears. I've got a Frozen, frigid, whatever. I forget what it is. But I don't have many suitable ones for this, so I just popped in her exclusive, which I do have at level 13. It's not a bad one. It basically gives her an extra 45% crit damage during her ultimate. Not too shabby, especially since all the damage she's doing in this fight is, for the most part, during her ultimate. So Warlord on the left-hand side, total stats were 22,506 attack, 342 attack speed, 100% crit, 311% crit damage, and 20% rage regen. Again, the rage regen does not matter for her at all. That only affects the rage that she gets from her auto attacks, and she does not have the opportunity to use the auto attacks before you have to cast the ultimate. So rage regen was purely incidental in this in this comp. She is max skilled, of course, and she is a 0 for perspective. Let's take a look at our Ymiric, who, again, another one of my my Wailing Skull trio, and he's got Soulbound Arcana and Warlord on the left-hand side. Total stats, and he is fully skilled up, I should say. He is a 0 as well. Total stats, 19,494 attack, 100% crit rate, 353 attack speed, 300% crit damage. Again, mainly there to be just a Wailing Skull mule here. He is going in with high stats in order to get more damage out of the Shadow Komodo. That is how I got around the fact that I don't have great single target fighters outside of Valeria, who I couldn't bring in to really hit the boss all that often. So that is that 109,000 battle power that you see. Again, that is with the Lord bonus. So I think in actuality, he's more around like 93,000 battle power or something like that on my character screen. looking at Ares here. Ares is a 1, but is just Dust Skilled. Again, he has really high base attack, and so I wanted to bring him in for the Wailing Skull damage. He does have Infernal Roar on the right-hand side. I guess I probably could have put him into Soulbound Arcana, but I was running low on Soulbound Arcana. You got to most of the damage heroes in this team, or a lot of them, have Soulbound Arcana on, and I did not have enough good Soulbound Arcana to put on him. So 25,824 attack, 321 attack speed, 101.5% crit rate, 289% crit damage, 38.5% rage regen. Again, rage regen doesn't really matter. I don't have anything in his ultimate as far as skill ups are concerned. Looks like the only thing that I was able to max is this Vital Strike, which I guess is decent, but really the main thing about that was this plus 30% physical damage reduction. This is debuffs are the reason that he got brought in over, say, like a Lust or something like that. Although Lust isn't ideal either because she does damage to your team, and there's already enough damage going out there. So, in any case, that is my Ares. Let's take a look at the Piercers here. So, we've got Aracha. Aracha doesn't really do much single target damage, and she was going to be too far away for the Shadow Komodo to really hit the boss. There are only 3 deployable tiles that can actually have Wailing Skulls that will actually hit the boss. So you can only bring 3 total, only 3. But keep in mind, this is endgame content at the end of the day. So she is in a morale set, mainly there to buff everybody else. She's low priority on the deployment list. I think she's the last or second to the last ground-based unit that I do bring out. She is max skilled. I do have her max skilled for GVG, but that's not really required here. Really, all she's in there for is just for the morale set, and because I needed to bring a Piercer Lord, and it was preferable to bring in a ground-based one, obviously, over Lunaria or Eovar, if you have Eovar. Eovar might be better. I honestly, I don't really know enough about how his Lord bonus works, or whether or not that massive damage boost is going to go onto Hex, whether he's deployed or not, but you can only have 1 deployed platform unit in order to make this, period, in this fight. So there is that. And then we'll go Big Daddy Hex here. He's got 18,273 attack, 336 attack speed, 103.5% crit rate, 327.5% crit damage. Now, Hex, as you saw in the damage figures that I showed you before, did the lion's share of the damage in this fight. 70 million damage, double Volcas, 3 times what I think Ares and Ymira did, 3 to 4 times what Ares and Ymira did. So just can't say enough good things about my Hex. I love him. He is a 5, obviously, and he does have the level 16 exclusive, the Suture of Caprice, on as well. Warlord on the left-hand side, fully skilled up, of course. And yeah, just as far as like non-ancient, non-lord heroes, gotta be my favorite in the game. I love my Hex. And, you know, it doesn't hurt that I've got him, like, maxed out. Like, you will not see a beefier Hex than this, for the most part, including the Lord bonus, 123,000 battle power, which is kind of nutty. Interesting. I didn't know you could actually see what their battle power works out to with the Lord bonus. That is kind of staggering. So, Ardea, and this is the tough one right here. So, Ardea is rough if you don't have a Lord, honestly. The gear requirements, if you are bringing in a Chaos Lord or a Northerner Lord, are going to be less than this, but this is kind of bare minimum. I was just squeaking by with this. A little less so once I did have Aracha on the field for that morale set bonus, that extra 4% damage, but without it, there was quite a bit of RNG involved. I needed to get a little bit lucky with procs for her in order to make this work. But I do have her in a level 25 Realm Tier, whatever it's called. I was lucky enough to get a couple really nice pieces of this Wicked Vengeance set that came out recently, the Tier 3 set. So I popped those on her, and that is kind of what made the difference at the end of the day, was being able to stack some extra crit damage while maintaining high attack. Really did come into play later on, and this piece is, oof. Good God, such a nice piece. Really excited. I got that the other day. Got a Varian Bengal on her that gave an extra 20 attack speed and has very, very nice, kind of like perfect stats on it, and solid rolls as well. So that really helped out. Obviously, she is max skilled. Stats are 31,843 attack, 320 attack speed, 101.5% crit rate, 349% crit damage. She is a beastly hero. And it is crazy that she was able to do this without a Lord involved. Very, very impressive. I mean, expectations are high for Ardea, right? It's a high bar for her anyway, but she's a beast, and I don't know how else I would have done this. He probably would have worked something out with a Valkyra in some way or another, but luckily I didn't have to go down that route. So in any case, let's take a look at Constance here. Constance does have 16,965 attack. She does have 263 attack speed, which is a little bit important here because she is expected to heal. So extra attack speed is important, but you need her to be able to buff as well, as you'll see in the video, or as you saw in the video, excuse me. And 53.5% rage regen. Not really as important in this case because I'm using her inspiration buff kind of sparingly. She is max skilled and just a beast of a hero. Really did some work for me. And then Decimus, as I showed you before, is naked, so no gearing required. Max skills though, you need this to be not that one. Where is it? You need this one to be max skilled so you can get that effect duration. But I think most of us can probably manage that. All right, I'm going to briefly talk about some hypothetical potential replacements for heroes. Torador. He could be replaced by Wrath. You just need to have enough damage to compensate for the fact that the Lord bonus from Wrath is not going to do as much as Torador's would, obviously. I went back and I looked at the tape. I actually didn't deploy him at all. I know I said I dropped him in there for a couple of whacks of the boss. That did not actually happen. So no need to worry about gearing or really awakenings or anything like that on Torador. Obviously, the A2 does help out his team, but it's like 20 attack speed. So I really don't think that even really needs to be considered. You just need to have enough damage to compensate for the lower Lord bonus from Wrath. Now, Volca is irreplaceable, but everybody has her. Now, in this comp, she did do significantly more damage because she is A5, and I do think that will really help you out. I think most of you, if you are trying to tackle this content, you likely are at a spot where you should be able to beat Tide. There are some videos out there. I know Fastidious released one recently where he talked about how you can max your BP in order to beat Tide. It's a pretty achievable goal at this point in the game for endgame accounts. So I would definitely recommend that you go and you do that before you try to tackle this content. I think it will pay dividends, not just here, but in all the different places that Volca is useful, which is just, they're plentiful in this game. Valeria, I don't know that there's really a solid replacement for Valeria. You can do some weird stuff with Decimus and with Cerberus. I think I could probably lump Ardea and Valeria in together because they both kind of function similarly. Ardea is a little bit more limited because she can only be used on the outer lanes because you can't actually hit the inner lanes with Ardea before the enemies start moving. Once the enemies do start moving, Ardea really doesn't have enough time to DPS them down. So I would say both of these units, you could... Valeria, probably you'd have to do a Cerberus Decimus combo. It's going to be limiting because of the redeployment time on Cerberus, but I know some folks have done it. There are some comps that do. There we go. There's a comp with Cerberus in there. So that is certainly a possibility. If you don't have Ardea, I think you could do that. I haven't seen any teams do it with Valkyra, but if you are doing a Northerner comp, kind of like this guy did up here, then maybe that's something that you could do. Although, again, you'd have to solve the problem of damage that way, which I don't know how you do that without a Nightmare comp. So that might be an issue. Ymir is replaceable at the end of the day, but kind of like the other heroes that I've talked about here, you really would need to be able to compensate for the 4% damage boost that he is providing. Mine is a 0. A2 or higher would be even better because another 2% damage bonus to the entire team for bringing him in the comp. But he could potentially be replaced by any other Nightmare hero that has a 2-tile range in front of him. That's really all you need. The extra range from Ymir is not needed for the way that I was using him in here. Similarly, Ares, a little bit less replaceable because of the debuffs that he brings. But if you can compensate for the damage, then he's not strictly necessary. There's nothing that he's doing that's really incredible from a damage perspective other than having high base stats, which supports his Wailing Skull. So that is that for Ares. That's the topper. That's the Nightmare team. Aracha is going to be a hard one to replace. You need a Piercer Lord. Theoretically, I think you might be able to do it with Lunaria, but you'd have to... Again, it kind of comes back to damage, right? I stacked multiple different damage bonuses on top, one of which was the morale set that was on Aracha. So you'd have to compensate for that damage in some way. I think that obviously the Lord bonus from Aracha, not just the extra 5% attribute bonus that she gets as a legendary lord over Lunaria, but also the extra damage for the extra range that she provides to piercers, to Hex in this case in particular, is going to be important. And I think that I can't quantify that exactly how much that is, but the gearing requirements would be significantly higher otherwise, and I have some of the best gear in the game, I think, so I don't know that you're going to be able to find another comp without. So I think Aracha is probably necessary. Maybe Eovar might be the other one that you could use instead. Again, I don't know. I'm not super familiar with the way that his Lord bonus functions because I don't have him, so I don't know whether or not you need to place him or not. If you do need to place him in order to activate that damage bonus to Marksman, then that's going to be an issue because you need to have a high damage dealer on that platform tile, and I don't think that Eovar is going to be able to do what Hex did here. So speaking of Hex, I don't know. I don't know that you can replace him. You could bring in A5 Silas. That's a potential replacement. However, he's not going to do anywhere near as much damage as Hex did. His ultimate duration is not as long, and the exclusive artifact on Hex is just such a game changer that I don't know that you can replace him with A5 Silas. The flip side of that is that A5 Silas does bring I think a 15% physical damage vulnerability to the entire for the entire team, basically. So he's going to basically boost physical damage by 15%. I don't know if the total effect on your team would outweigh the extra damage that Hex is going to do over him. Something you might want to play around with if you don't have an A5, or excuse me, A3+, I think is really what you need, A3+ Hex. Then you might want to try out, if you do have an A5 Silas, you might want to try and bring that in, see if you can't work something out. That might be a possibility. That certainly could work. I don't, my Silas is A0, so I don't have the option to bring that in and really test it out, but that is a potential. I did already talk about Ardea, but I'll just kind of reiterate that I think that either Valkyra or maybe some combination of Cerberus and Decimus might be able to replace what Ardea does, but it's going to be, I didn't try that specifically, so I don't know that that necessarily will work. I think if you are doing it this way, Constance is a must. I don't think that you're going to get around using Constance. There is no other ground-based healer that, aside from, I guess, Mariel, I think, but I'm not really familiar with her. I don't think she's going to do enough damage, or excuse me, enough healing, and I definitely don't think that you're going to be able to get away with not having the inspiration bonus, which was very crucial when I needed to get some like significant damage windows into this fight. And so I think it's going to be hard to replace Constance. I think you're going to need her if you are trying to do some iteration of this strategy. And then finally, Decimus. You don't need to replace him because everybody has him. Or if you don't, then go pull, 30 summons or so, and you will have him. So I won't even touch on replacing him. Other than to say, I guess, theoretically, well, no, you can't. You really can't replace him because it's not just the unkillable. It's also his respawn timer that does allow him to be rotated in over and over again to deal with the skill during phase 2 where the boss removes heroes from the battlefield. So that is that for me. I think that's going to do it for the video, guys. As I said earlier, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of questions about exactly what was going on. I know there's a lot happening in the video. I may end up putting a comprehensive guide together on this later on if there is enough interest. However, I think as of right now, the number of accounts that are going to be able to pull this off is very limited. So I don't know that there's really going to be enough people that really get a lot out of me putting one of those videos together. And it would be a lot of work because there's just so many moving parts in this comp. But with that said, if you do have questions and you are trying to recreate this, please sound off in the comments. I will do my best to answer them as fully as I can. And, if you have any other ideas or questions about the mechanics, I have run this. I spent countless hours doing this at this point because I was just determined. This is like what I did when I had spare time. At the end of my day when I was unwinding. It was preventing me from unwinding, honestly, because it was so frustrating. So, in any case, guys, thank you so much for tuning into my video. I do appreciate it. Please do like and subscribe, and I will catch you all next time.